Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this session. In today's class, we will look into the module 3. In module 3, these are the different topics we are going to learn about. We are going to learn about the JavaScript, that is client-side scripting. What is the JavaScript and what it can do? JavaScript design principles. What are the different design principles that are used for JavaScript? And where does JavaScript go? Means which part of the code goes where the JavaScript code will be placed, how it will get executed, syntax, JavaScript objects we are going to see, then DOM, document model, document object model we are going to see, then JavaScript events, different events that we can have and how those events can be used, then forms. So those are the basically on the JavaScript. So until this point, this is all like on the client side, and in the sense browser side programming, whether you can call whether it is a HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, it comes on the client side. Now from here, we are going to see the server side. So introduction to server side development with PHP. You remember we learned about the form, and whatever the data that is entered in the form, by using the submit button, we can submit it to the server. Okay, so once you click on the submit, that will be that data will be sent to the server. So there are two methods are there, get and post method. We will see that. And once it goes on the server side, this data is given to specific resource. If you remember on the form, we had an action, and there we had provided the resource which is on the server. For example, some kind of a PHP file. This data is given to that PHP file, and then the actual processing will happens. Maybe it will create some action, or it will save that data into a database. Any action that is required for that particular submit event is processed on the server side. Then development with PHP. We are going to learn about the PHP. What is the server side development? A web server's responsibility. Quick tour of a PHP. So PHP actually a very brief introduction is given here, and most of the controls programming aspects of the PHP are covered in this module. But as I said, most of the time we have indicators here, and if you want to really create a skill, then you have to practice more. There are a lot of resources available online. Then it will be you can put it as a skill in your resume. And program control and functions, those are the things we are going to see in module 3. So we'll start with the JavaScript. JavaScript client-side scripting. So these are the different things we are going to learn. What is JavaScript? JavaScript design, using JavaScript, the syntax, JavaScript objects, the DOM, document object model, JavaScript events, and the forms. First thing we'll start with the JavaScript. First of all, what is a JavaScript? So first thing you have to remember is JavaScript has nothing to do with the Java programming language. Java is a totally a separate programming language, and JavaScript is a totally a different language. Java is a most popular object-oriented programming language, and JavaScript is also object-oriented programming language. But JavaScript is executed inside the browser. So it can be any kind of a browser. It could be Chrome, then Mozilla, or you have your Internet Explorer, any kind of a browser. It will run inside the browser. JavaScript runs right inside the browser. JavaScript is dynamically typed. What is the meaning of a dynamically typed language? Dynamically typed language will check the variable type at the runtime, not at the compile time. Similar to Python, when you are creating a variable in Python, you don't specify what is the data type, isn't it? So the data type is automatically assigned based on what type of a data you are trying to store, whether you are trying to store a number or a text or a boolean value, true, false. Based on that, it will dynamically check at the runtime. JavaScript is a object oriented in that almost everything in the language is an object. So in case of JavaScript, everything is an object. The objects in Java scripts are a prototype based rather than the class based. So in case of a Java programming language that we are aware, uh, the it is based on the objects are based on the class based. But in case of a JavaScript, these are a prototype based. Okay, which means that while JavaScript shares some syntactic features of PHP, Java, or C Sharp, it is also quite different from those languages. So there are some things which are very similar. Okay, syntactic features they match with the programming languages like Java, PHP, and C Sharp, but it is a totally a different language. What isn't a JavaScript? Okay, although it contains a word Java, JavaScript and Java are vastly different programming languages with different uses. As I told you, Java is completely different from the JavaScript, even though the name JavaScript is having this word Java, but it has nothing to do with the actual Java. Both are separate, and their uses are also separate. As I told you, Java it can be used as a programming language or object-oriented programming language anywhere. JavaScript is used in the browser for scripting. Java is a full-fledged compiled object-oriented language popular for its ability to run on any platform with a JVM installed. We know that Java is a platform independent language. That is what we call wherever we have the JVM, whether it's a Unix or Windows or any kind of other system. If there is a JVM, we can run our Java programs there. We need not recompile. That is how Java is a platform independent, which you already aware of. And conversely, JavaScript is one of the world's most popular languages with fewer of the object-oriented features of Java, and that runs directly inside the browser, and it doesn't need any kind of a Java virtual machine or JVM. The JavaScript doesn't have a very rich features like a Java, but it has most of the features which is helpful for writing the client scripts. Client-side scripting. So this is the user and he requests certain HTML. So get vacation.html. This request goes to the server, and server responds with the HTML document vacation.html. And if you see inside the HTML document, there is a script. Okay, there is some kind of a scripting. We will see what is the structure of the JavaScript, how it is used, where it is used. All those things we'll see. So this particular HTML document has some kind of a scripting. So you can see with that it is written with a tag inside the angle bracket script, and closing tag is inside the angle bracket /script, and between the opening and closing tags we have all the scripting commands written, or we can have it in multiple ways. The scripting, either it can be inline, or it can be part of the header, that is it can be embedded, or we can have the JavaScript as an external file. Once we get the HTML document, the browser executes all the JavaScript. If there is any JavaScripts, then those JavaScripts are executed. Then browser can layout and display the page to the user. So after executing the JavaScript, it will then display render that particular page to the browser. There are many advantages of having a client-side scripting. What is the different advantages that we can have using the client-side scripting? We can have the processing can be offloaded from the server to the client machine, thereby reducing the load on the server. What is the meaning of this is many of the functions that are functions or the processing that needs to be carried out on the server can be shifted to the client side. Okay, so let us say you want to do the validation. A certain field is a number or not. You want certain field to be certain data to be a number. There are two ways of doing it. One is like on the submit button, you send this data to the server, and on the server side, you can have a scripts running server side scripts, which will check, which will validate this particular data is number or not. If it is not number, then again you will send a response to the browser saying that the data entered should be a number. So here you can see like to just to validate whether particular item is a number or not, we have to make a trip to the server. Request has to go to the server. Server will do the processing, and it will respond if there is any error or if it is accepted. So this particular functionality, even though it is not a, very important function, okay, with respect to the processing of any web application, okay, it is important for the validation, right? We have to get a good data, but that validation can be moved to the client side, right? And so if that number has to be checked, we can check it on the client side itself, and those responses would be much faster. So when we are doing the validation on the client side using the JavaScript, the processing will happen on the browser and response will go to the user on the browser itself. The minute you have written a JavaScript to do the validation, immediately after user checks that enters the data, then only immediately we can do the validation, and we can tell number field should be that field should be entered with only numbers, not any other characters or any other special characters. So this way we are avoiding the trip to the server, and for user experience it's a great experience, because the application will look like a desktop application. So you are aware about the desktop application. For example, you have MS Office, okay, MS Word. Okay. Those are all desktop application. Whatever you are working on them, it is directly on your particular system. There is no server side for that. A similar experience can be given to the web application using the JavaScript. Browser can respond more rapidly to user events than a request to a remote server could, which improves the user experience. One second. Okay, browser can respond rapidly. Why it can respond rapidly? There is no trip to the server. The validation scripts will run on the browser side. So it will respond very quickly to the user. JavaScript can interact with a downloaded HTML in a way that server cannot, creating a user experience more like a desktop software than simple HTML ever could. So by having the all the downloaded HTML, the way JavaScript will can access those elements is much easier compared to from the server side. So that is how we can give more functionality which will look like a desktop application. So using JavaScript, we can create that experience for the user. And along with the many advantages, there are disadvantages of having a client-side scripting, and it is mostly related how programmers use the JavaScript in their applications. The first thing is there is no guarantee that the client has a JavaScript enabled. For JavaScript to be executed on the browser, the first and foremost thing is it should be enabled. So JavaScript should be enabled. Then only on that particular browser we can run the JavaScript. So that is the first issue. Then the idiosyncrasies between various browsers and operating systems make it difficult to test for all potential client configuration. What works in one browser may generate an error in another. So this is another problem when you are doing the application development. You have to test it on all the different browsers, okay, because the behavior of how the JavaScript runs on one browser is different from one browser to another browser. But at the same time, it is very difficult to test the application on all the browsers, all the versions of the browsers. So that will make it very inconsistent. And JavaScript heavy web applications can be complicated to debug and maintain. So also we have to make sure that we should not make the client very thick with JavaScripts, okay, heavy with the JavaScripts. The applications which are having the heavy usage of the JavaScript will become very complicated, okay. And also it is very if you are getting some kind of a error, it's very difficult to debug those kinds of a error, and also it will create a maintenance headache. JavaScript is not only the type of client-side scripting, so there are other client-side scripting. For example, we have the browser plugins are there. For example, we have the Flash. That's a browser plugin which will run on the browser. So this is the example. A particular user requests a vacation.html page to the server. The request goes to the server, and server responds with a HTML file. And inside that HTML file, there is a certain file, game.swf, which can be executed using the Flash plugin. Okay. Then this page, it gets the HTML page, and it sees there is a game.svf. So it will make another request. Browser will make another request to get to the web server to get this particular file, game.swf, and in response the server will return the game.swf file to the browser. Then what browser does is it delegates the handling of this particular file, that is game.svf, to the plugin, Flash plugin. So the Flash plugin it executes that particular file. So that is how the this client side script works for the Flash plugin. Another example is a Java applet. So you are already learned about the applets. So the applets can be executed on the browser side again. Okay, and it uses the Java plugin. Java applets are written in and are separate objects included within the HTML document via the applet tag. So to include the applets, we have to use the applet tag. Here is the request, user request for the vacation.html, and he gets back the HTML file vacation.html, and inside that we have a applet eb.class. Then it makes another request to get that eb.class. The server will respond with that eb.class to the browser. Then browser delegates this particular file, that is eb.class, to the Java plugin. So Java plugin will take care of executing that particular class. Plugin passes control to the JRE. So this particular plugin will require a Java runtime environment. So it will that class will get executed by the JRE. JavaScript history. JavaScript was introduced by Netscape. Netscape was the one of the earliest browsers that we had. I'm not sure if you are aware of this particular browser. This was the one of the earliest browser we got. That was Netscape, and they introduced this in their Navigator browser back in 1996. JavaScript is in fact an implementation of a standardized scripting language called ECMA script. JavaScript was only slightly useful and quite often very annoying to many users. So at that particular time, JavaScript was there was a general feeling that it's difficult to use and it's quite annoying also. Here is the HTTP request response loop. This is without using the JavaScript. So we have user request a certain a form.php, and in return he gets the requested page with updated form. Okay, you can see user requested this particular form.php, and he gets this particular form where there is a country and we have radio buttons, and this is the one more button, looks like a submit button. Then we have a province. So these are different provinces. So first thing is user will request the PHP. We don't get this. We get empty, right? If there is any default selected, we have already seen the radio button and all those, how we can set the default values. Right now there is no default value set. We get the form like this. So this is requested page is returned to the browser, and once this page is displayed, user will enter the country. So here user has selected the Canada, and he will click on the update, and you can see the state is unavailable. Here also state is unavailable. So user will click on the update. What it will do is this form is submitted back to the server. The form will get submitted to the server with a country is equal to Canada. Now we know that user has selected a country as Canada. Then server side processing happens. Then what it will do is it will respond with the updated form. So in case of updated form, you can see this provinces are all populated. So using this particular query string where we have the country is Canada, maybe the data is stored in the database. We will make a query to the database and get all the provinces that are in Canada, and we populate this particular this particular control with those list of values, and then server responds back with the updated form. Then this updated form is shown to the user. So that is how the complete flow goes here. First, user request for the form. The form default form will be displayed. User will enter the information. First, he will select the country and he will say update. Then request will go to the server again with this value, Canada value, and processing happens on the server side, and it will give a updated form. In the updated form, we have all the values that are available for the province for this country will be shown as a list of values. So this particular form will be shown to the users. Maybe then maybe there is a city, you select the province, then city is not populated. Based on the province, a city will be populated. Maybe it will go back request to the server again, and it will get the list of cities and update the form again, and it will send to the browser. So this is the most detailed one. Request comes to the server. Okay, then response is given to the browser. After browser receives a response to its HTTP request, it blanks the browser window. Okay, first it will blanks out the browser window, and whatever updated form is got, that form is rendered on the browser. Renders the just received HTML in the browser window, and after selecting the this particular form, again the request will go. Request, suppose user will select Canada here and update, again request will go here with the country value as Canada, and response will come, and before giving the updated form, it will blanks out the window, and after blanking out the window, it will render the whatever the updated form that is received. In case of a updated form, we have the values for the list of values for the province control. So JavaScript in modern times, there is something called as Ajax. You must have heard about the word Ajax. So for making asynchronous call to the server, we use the Ajax, and that is how the modern browsers are very responsive, and we save a lot of time in reloading the complete form, okay, complete web page. Okay, so instead of reloading the complete web page, whatever the functionality that needs to be updated, the request can be sent as a asynchronous request. That particular value can be updated. For example, you are creating a weather related website, web application, and you are by default you are selecting some city, and you are displaying the temperature. So one option is, suppose if there is a you are updating that temperature every minute. Okay, you are changing that value every you are displaying that temperature value every minute. One way is like you request the complete page, okay, from the server, and server with the updated value of the temperature, it will give the complete HTML, and you render that on the browser. That is one way of doing it, which is will make the browser very slow. The other way is you just need the temperature. The rest of the information that is shown on your web application will remain as is. Okay, it does not require any reload. Then what we can do is we can send a request, a synchronous request. Okay, am I audible, guys? You can see my slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So instead of loading the complete page, what you can do is like you have just the temperature that you are interested in. You can send the request to the server as a asynchronous call just to get the updated temperature. And once you get the updated temperature, you repaint that particular temperature. So that's how you don't have to reload the complete page. Most of the modern website, if you have seen, if they are showing any values which are dynamically changing, for example, if you are aware of the stock markets, where we can display the uh, the traded value of any security, that traded value continuously will change. Okay, if you have seen Google Finance or any Economic Times or any other financial website, that data will be continuously changing. So they make the asynchronous call to get that data. JavaScript became a much more important part of the web development in mid 2000 with Ajax. And Ajax is what both an acronym as well as a general term. And what is that acronym stands for? Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. That is Ajax. Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. The most important feature of Ajax sites is the asynchronous data request. So as I just talked about, there is a asynchronous request that can be made to the server, and only that particular information can be got from the server. And performance wise, it's very quick. Okay, instead of getting the whole complete page. So here, whatever we discussed, that earlier example, we were updating the country, and we were submitting, and after the submitting, we were getting the complete page again, and it was getting loaded. If we use, excuse me, if we use the Ajax, okay, same thing can be implemented in a better way. Now the request comes for the form, then server will the response with the form, browser blanks out the browser, and it loads the form, updated form, whatever the form we get, it will update. Then user selects the country and clicks on the update. Now instead of submitting the complete form, what we do is via JavaScript, browser makes asynchronous request for the data. Now instead of reloading the complete page. Instead of submitting the complete page, only a request is sent. Asynchronous is a request is sent for the data. What kind of a data? So we need these states or the provinces. So it will respond. Server will respond. Browser returns XML or JSON. The kind of a response we get for this data, the state or the province data, it could be in terms of a XML or a JSON objects. Okay, or it can be some other type of a data. It is up to the developer how you want to receive that particular data. Once a browser receives that data, this particular control will be updated via JavaScript. Browser dynamically updates the window to change the label and populate list with the provinces of the Canada. So it is changing label also, that I did not notice. So from state, it is dynamically changing it to provinces. In Canada, those are called provinces. Then it is updating this particular values. So this is done dynamically. You can see rest of the form remained as is. Only thing that got changed was this particular label and the value list of values for this control. Frameworks, lots of this are done for you, and once you get the basics. So there are a lot of frameworks which will help with JavaScript. Frameworks are there which will help with a lot of controls which are readily available, that can be directly used by including those JavaScripts. For example, we have a date picker. Then we can use accordion. Accordion will look like this. And autocomplete features we can include. This is the image slider. This is a light box. So these are the different things that we can use. JavaScript design principles. The design principle is like how we can design. There are different ways to do the designing. We will look into that. When designing a software to solve a problem, it is often helpful to abstract the solution a little bit to help build cognitive model in your mind that you can then implement. So it's always whenever you are designing, first you will come up with the abstract ideas, right? Suppose you have been asked to create a application where it will show the weather related information. So you will think about how you will structure your web application at a very high level, abstract level. Then you will come up with a more concrete details for each. So one of the most common way of thinking this is a layers, in terms of a different layers. Perhaps the most common way of articulating such a cognitive model is via the term layer. So you will have a presentation layer, right? You can have layers based on your own design. So how you want to structure that. In object-oriented programming, software layer is a way of conceptually grouping programming classes. Okay, that is a software layer where all the classes will be put into one software layer, and which have similar functionality and dependencies. So you can have based on the software or based on the functionality. The layers can be created based on n number of ways, like how you want to approach, how you want to create the web application. Based on that, you can use the layers approach. This is the most common layers most of the web applications follow. We call presentation layer, business layer, and the data layer. So whatever user sees as a web application on his browser, that is a presentation layer. So presentation layer will take care of all the things which are related to the user interface. How presentation is done, how user will see the form, how user will see the web application, how user will navigate, how user will enter the data. So that is all related to the presentation layer. Classes focused on the user interface. Then a business layer. So business layer is a classes that model real world entities such as customers, products, and sales. So that forms the business layer, where we are going to model the real world entities. For example, there might be many customers, for the web application, and there are products that will be available on that web application. There are a lot of sales, okay, sales, payments, all those things will be a part of the business layer. So business layer will include all those classes which are dealing with the business of that particular web application. In your example, we talked about the weather. In case of the weather, what are the different business layers? There are users for the applications, and there are weather data, right? How then grouping of that weather data, grouping according to countries, grouping according to the states, cities, then how you are going to display, what kind of information you are going to display. All those information will be part of the business layer. And data layer classes that handle the interaction with the data sources. So all these classes will interact with the database. Whenever business layer it is doing any kind of a business related processing, it would require a data. For example, in case of a weather data, we need the temperature, humidity, then precipitation, all those information. Those informations are stored in the data sources. It could be a data for it could be a database, or it could be a file, it could be a live streaming. So any kind of a data source, whichever layer that interacts with the data and gets the data, that is called as a data layer. So mainly all the applications can be thought about these things of these kinds of layers. So these are not limited to only three layers: presentation layer, business layer, and data layer. We can have more layers in presentation itself. In the business itself, we can have more layers based on the vertical of the business or the horizontals of the business. So these are the layers, and this is just a conceptual idea. We have HTML, and to support that HTML, we have CSS for the styling. We can use the JavaScript for the presentation. Then we can use the JavaScript for the validation of the data. So whatever the data is user is providing, you can run validation on top of that. And we can have a JavaScript for the asynchronous calls, asynchronous requests. We just talked about that. We can send a request to the server, asynchronous request, and get the data using the JavaScript. And we can have the JavaScript framework. For example, jQuery is one of the very known JavaScript framework. So these are the different layers. That is how we can stack our application. Users without JavaScript, web crawler. Web crawler is a client running on behalf of a search engine to download your site, so that it can eventually be featured in their search results. So web crawler, they are used to download the site, so that the search engine can use it to feature your particular website whenever there is a relevant search which is relevant to the your web application. Then browser plugins. Browser plugins is a piece of software that works within the browser that might interfere with the JavaScript. So there can be many plugins that can be created which will work on the browser. Text-based client. Some clients are using a text-based browser. Visually disabled client. Visually disabled client will be special web browsing software to read the content of the web page out loud to them. So if somebody is visually disabled, we can have this visually disabled client which will read out the content of the HTML document. That's why I told you accessibility of the HTML documents is very, very important. And what is accessibility? Having the semantic elements in your document. That is how if your HTML document follows that semantical structure, it will be very easy for the such softwares to understand your website and help with the accessibility to those who are challenged in various forms. The no script tag. Any text between the opening and closing tags will only be displayed to users without the ability to load JavaScript. It is often used to prompt user to enable JavaScript, but can also be used to show additional text to search engines. Requiring JavaScript for the basic operations of your site will cause the problem eventually and should be avoided. So for any basic operations, if you depend on the JavaScript, then it's not a good design. Any basic operation should be performed without using the JavaScript. So that is how you will not be forcing the users to enable the JavaScript, or it will if it is not enabled, it will result in some kind of errors. So those things can be avoided. This approach for of adding functional replacement for those without JavaScript is also referred to as fail-safe design, which is a phrase with a meaning beyond the web development. Fail-safe design is like, if there is a no JavaScript support, then how adding the functionality which will replace the usage of the JavaScript, those are called as a fail-safe design. Graceful degradation and progressive enhancement. So one approach you can use is, because all browsers are different, and there are different versions of the browser. Whenever you are developing a web application, you have to keep in a mind with a certain set of browsers and certain versions of the browsers and what they support. So whether there is a support for the JavaScript, there is a support for the HTML5, then certain CSS elements that have come with the HTML5. So all those things needs to be checked. Over the years, browser support for different JavaScript objects has varied. Something that works in current version of Chrome might not work in a IE version 8. So there are, because their support is different. If something works for the current Chrome may not work in IE 8. Something that works in the desktop browser may not work on the mobile browser. There are two strategies we can follow for handling this. One is called as a graceful degradation, and second one is the progressive enhancement. And what is a graceful degradation? Graceful degradation is a strategy to develop your site for the ability of the current browser. So you will select the current browsers, and those will be the benchmark for your development. So whatever is the latest available in the market, okay, whatever the Chrome or uh, Firefox or Mozilla, whatever that are available current version, you will develop your application to support them. And as and when you see older versions, you will gradually degrade your functionality. Okay, so that is the approach. For those users who are not using the current browsers, you might provide alternate site or pages for those using the older browser that lack the JavaScript or CSS or HTML used in the main site. So you will provide some alternative or some downgrades as you go to the previous versions. The idea here that the site is degraded, loses capability gracefully. Okay, that is without pop-up JavaScript error codes, or without consenting messages telling user to upgrade their browser. So you will not be putting pop-up messages to enable the JavaScript or update the to the current browser version. Instead of doing that, you can gracefully provide lesser capability to the application without getting any kind of a error on the user applications. Still, you will gracefully degrade and show the application. This is the example. This is the web application that is designed for the current browser. So this will work. Whatever the controls that are used, these are supported by the latest versions of the browsers. You can see there is a color control. Then you can see there is a range, and we have a for selecting the date. We have the date picker. All these things are there. And let us say the user is accessing this web application with the older version. then you will gracefully degrade instead of the color HTML control. This is the HTML5 control that we have already seen. Instead of that, you will provide a just text input, and you will provide this as a information what data to be entered. Basically, the users have to enter the RGB data here, and you will take it as a text or a string. And you can say similarly the value, the range control is replaced, and the date. These are note or the information shown here between 0 and 9. So in this particular control, there is no need to inform the users. You have to put between 0 and 9, because whatever the value they select on this will be between 0 and 9. Similarly, when user is selecting the date, whichever the date he is selecting, it will convert it into a whatever the format required by this particular form. Here you specify what format the users will enter. So here you can choose to have a JavaScript for the validation. Progressive enhancement. So this is opposite to the this concept, graceful degradation. You will start your application development with the current version, and you slowly degrade as you see the older versions of the uh, browser. In this case, this is just the opposite to that. It's a progressive enhancement. So you will not develop your application for the current browser, maybe a one version or a two version older. You will take that as a benchmark, and you will write your application for that, and you will progressively enhance. If you see the latest version of the browser, you will give the enhanced features. So that is the strategy that is used in the progressive enhancement. In this case, the developer creates the site using CSS, JavaScript, and HTML features that are supported by all the browsers of certain age or newer. So maybe 2-3 versions. To that baseline site, the developers can now progressively, that is for each browser, enhance, that is add functionality to their site based on the capabilities of the user's browser. This is the exactly opposite. This is the version you want to start on, a little older version, maybe 2 to 3 versions. Then you will develop like this, and as and you see the latest versions of the browser, you will enhance this. So you will replace this with a color HTML element, and with the range and the date picker. Where does JavaScript go? What is the location we can include the JavaScript? We'll see it in the next session.